Good morning, Colts Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the No Horsing Around podcast, brought to you exclusively by the Lounge Room Network. As always, we're just two dudes talking Colts. We're your hosts, Steven and Zach. And on today's episode, you guys, we're just going to have some fun. Like, we're going to touch on some of the nice hot topic later, but it's all about fun today. We promised you guys a part 2 of our fantasy part 1, and we're rolling it out today, man. I don't know about you, Zach, but I'm pumped.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. We talk about all off season, Steven, just you and I kind of texting back and forth. What can we do to have some fun? Just to kind of keep, everything going. And what better way to kind of, go get things going? We kind of started last week. We touched Colts-centric fantasy, but this year's around the NFL. We're going to touch top 5 players at each position. We're going to cover quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We're not going to get into the defensive side. That's for another day. That's for your super nerds, which I am one, but today we're not going to do that. We're going to do your regular, top 5. We might have you never know, we might have a couple extra, X Factor gems in there. We're just going to have a good, fun discussion. We're just going to tell you who we think this year is our top 5 at each position. We'll go back and forth. Steven and I will just have a good conversation, and we're just going to have fun. We're excited about it, man.
Yeah, and as always, you guys, we ask you guys to please rate, review, subscribe, share, follow. I say it all the time. Whatever it is you do on whatever platform it is you do it on, please go do it. We're really partial to if you want to hit that lovely subscribe button on YouTube. We love that too. We're working hard trying to build that up because we got some cool things coming on that end. So let's just go, man. So obviously Zach said he's kind of the fantasy nerd a little bit. I'm going to say that because he said that. I'm not going to call him that because he's my buddy, but I'm going to let him take the lead, and I'm going to kind of go along because, as you guys have heard me say, I got beat by my 16-year-old nephew last year in fantasy league. So let's let the pro take it over, and I'll kind of sit back and cruise a little bit tonight.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, I look forward to doing this. This is something that I totally admit, and Steven, you can call me a nerd about this. I actually take that as a compliment when it comes to fantasy football, I guess, and anything in general. So we'll just start, and we're going to keep this. This is going to be based on your PPR scoring system, okay? So it's not going to be just your regular standard. It's going to be standard. It's going to be your PPR, points per reception. So we're really going to cater to those players in this league. And before we get started, I just want to do a general shout out. We started a no horsing fantasy league, 10 people. Everybody got in. They are all super cool. They all signed up day of. Most of them have already put their buy-in into the thing. Frank Love, a dude who's been a fan of mine since I got done podcasting, he's already made a joke, said he's giving me a $20 loan so I can go ahead and give him all the money back at the end of the season. So
remind me, Zach, who was it that said to just go ahead and send the Cash App straight to him? Was that Amy?
I don't know.
Someone told me to just go ahead and make the Cash App straight to them.
Steven, I love when there's shots fired, man. That's what it's all about. Nothing better than being a sports fan. And, at the end of the day, I have no problem letting every one of you guys feel like that you have a chance at winning this league. And then I'll come back and I'll just graciously snatch all that money up at the very end. Nah, man, we'll see. But let's just get started off at quarterback. Steven, jump right in like we always do, man. We just go head first into everything because that's our style. That's how we do it. So we're going to start a quarterback. I'm just going to go through my top 5. And you can go through your top 5, and then we can just kind of have a healthy discussion. And what do you think about this? What do you think about that? We may have very similar top 5s when it comes all down to it. But obviously, number 1 quarterback, I don't think you got to be a very smart human being to know that Patrick Mahomes is the number 1 quarterback in the NFL. This guy's a freak of nature. He does it year in and year out. He never ceases to amaze me. And just in that Andy Reid system where he's going to be there for the next 10 years, he's going to be king of the NFL, man. He's the new face of the franchise and the face of the NFL for that matter. So I go Patrick Mahomes 1. My number 2 is probably going to be a little interesting just from the standpoint that from what I've heard and what I've read and gauged, he's top 5, but he's not top 2. I think Josh Allen is equipped to have a really, really good season. And it was a toss-up for me. It was Allen, it was Murray, it was Wilson. Those 3 are kind of in that same grouping, mobile quarterbacks who can still throw a lot of touchdowns. I just think Allen has a lot of great targets. I really do. I think he has all the weapons to really thrive. And then his feet, the way he uses his feet, are pretty special. And he doesn't run for, he's not your guy's going to run for 150 yards in a game like crazy like a Kyler Murray or a Russell Wilson could do. But when he runs, he might run 4 times for 50 yards, but 2 of those runs might be touchdowns. I mean, that's just how he's built. He's a very, very deadly guy in the red zone. So I'm Josh Allen 2, slightly over my number 3, which is Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is going to have a really big year this year. He's a really good quarterback. He's in a perfect system. They love slinging that ball around. I think they said, I don't know, he was 8th most rushing yards in NFL history last year, and it didn't even feel like he just like tipped the iceberg. You know what I mean? He's the perfect blend because he's everything that in my mind that Lamar Jackson really is not. He throws touchdowns and he runs with the football, which makes him the ultimate dual threat. So Kyler Murray would be my 3. Coming back at 4, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. I just think you got DK Metcalf, you got Lockett, you just got Wilson doing Wilson things. He's a super solid guy, and in PPR especially, I just love guys who can get me points in multiple different ways. I like that quarterback who can go out, even if he's not having his best game as far as throwing the football, his legs come to play. He goes out there and gets me those points, and he's very consistent. And then number 5 was kind of just it was a toss-up for me. It's really hard because normally you're going to have guys like Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys. We don't know if they're going to play.
There's a lot of unknown.
That's the biggest hurdle for me because right now Rodgers to me would be number 5 if he plays.
Right.
If he plays, I think he's number 5. I think he's still an elite level quarterback. He had a great year last year. Just looking down at the stats, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's pretty good.
An MVP.
Pretty damn good. I'll take that all day long. But that being said, I'm going to go in a different direction as much as this hurts because I absolutely hate this football team in the NFC. I'm going to go Dak Prescott, number 5.
Oh.
It's going to be my number 5 as of right now. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if Aaron Rodgers plays this season, this holdout goes away, I flip-flop those guys. And then you can even make a case for a guy like a Jalen Hurts, a Lamar Jackson, several other players are kind of all in that grouping as well. Maybe a Justin Herbert coming up on the line.
That's a good one too.
That's my top 5, man. You go ahead and go through yours. I don't know if you have any differences or
So let me ask you this because I'm curious. You said the flip flop could take place at your 5 with Aaron Rodgers going in for Dak. What if Deshaun actually plays? Do you put him in the top 5? He's up there. If he actually plays.
If he plays, but here's the thing. I don't think he plays 16 games, right? And you can't really have a guy picking him top 5 in a draft where a guy's not going to play a full season. Hopefully all your guys that you draft play a full season. Yes. If Deshaun Watson's playing football and we're not dealing with legal issues, we're not dealing with anything, this top 5 is much different.
Right.
I'm not sure Deshaun Watson's not my number 2 quarterback, when it all comes down to it. But that being said, I don't know that he plays a lot of football this year, honestly. The Texans are in a terrible position. He is in a terrible position. It's what do? You pay this guy all this money to not play football for you. You trade him, and you literally at this point get pennies on the dollar. Somebody's going to swoop in. A savvy football team who does their homework is going to swoop in and say, we've done our diligence. We know the backstory. We know what's going on, and either yay or nay. And somebody's going to take a chance on this guy. He's too good. I don't see it turning into a situation where Deshaun Watson can never play football again. However, I think Deshaun Watson probably misses a half a season. I really do. And then I don't know what you do if you're Houston. If Houston finds a way to recoup some of that money, maybe they hold on to him and say, all right, man, we're going to wait right to that trade deadline, and we're going to try to get, some real value for Deshaun Watson, a team that feels like we are literally one player away from pushing us over the edge, A team like Miami Dolphins, if Tua doesn't pan out or something like that, you go out and say, you know what, all we're missing is our quarterback, man. We're gonna make this move, and we're just gonna take that leap.
Yeah, it's funny. My buddy Adam, who's the big Bama fan, like he would contest with that Deshaun Watson take. I actually love him and the idea of going to Miami because I also think if he does get traded, I'm 100% agreement. He's not in my top 5 because I don't think he plays a full season. I think he plays this year, though. I think me and you are a little bit in the minority with it. I think he does play this year, but I don't know how much, maybe a half a season, somewhere around that. But I like it too because I think he's going to have to go somewhere where it's insulated, where they can kind of almost protect him and they can take that hit. Like the Patriots back in the day, as much as I hate saying that. But so my top 5 is going to be pretty similar. There's a couple little tweaks. So number 1, obviously, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if you can get Patrick Mahomes money, my father-in-law won our league just about. Patrick Mahomes first year starting, he picked him up. This is how bad it was, you guys. He picked him up on the waiver wire. He was not selected yet. Coming into that first year, he was still out there. He did not get drafted in my draft. Wow. That's insane to think about. Now he picked him up and he didn't lose another game. So if you can get Mahomes, you get Mahomes. He's like one of the few quarterbacks in my mind that you could take, and he has like the impact, the equivalent of like a really, really good running back, because running backs just rack up those points anyway. So he's number 1. I love the Josh Allen pick. I'm going to piggyback on that too. He reminds me a lot of, bigger, stronger. I don't want to say bigger, stronger, but he, like you said, he doesn't run. They don't design runs for him necessarily. It's like a scramble for like 20 yards. And us Colts fans know it firsthand because we saw it in the playoffs where we could not stop him from scrambling. So he's going to get those points for you. He's going to get those dual threat points. I think what you said, Zach, is the best thing too, is that with a quarterback, you kind of want some dual threat to it because you got to get the points somewhere. You got to get them kind of somewhere in there. Number 3 for me, I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers at 3. Okay. I think he plays in Green Bay. Stuff was supposed to come out, a couple days ago, if he was going to report or not, and nothing really came of it. I just don't see them. I got buddies who are big time Packers fans, live in Wisconsin. They're on the network, Brandon and Rhino. And they're pretty steadfast. They've been steadfast since the draft that he's not going anywhere. So I trust them. I'm going to put him at 3. So I like the Kyler Murray one. I'm so hesitant with him, and it's only because it's going to sound like so Neanderthal a little bit. Is he's so small. Yeah. He's just a small guy, and the way he plays, he is very slippery. He doesn't take a big hit. Because by God, if he took a big hit, he might get broken in half. I don't know if I put him in my top 5. My number 4 is actually going to be a little different. I like Dak. I think I'm probably going to go Dak at 4, just because the way that offense is built. We saw it last year. He's going to put points on the board, and he's going to get points just because that's what they do. Like, he just flings the ball around. I don't know what's going on with Zeke. Zeke's kind of a shell of himself. He looks like, feed me. Someone fed him a little too much probably. And he's considerably slower, and he's not the same. So I'll go Dak at 4. This is where I go different. I go Matthew Stafford at 5.
Okay.
Colts fans, obviously, we know we loved Stafford, and we wanted him before Carson Wentz, which I like to toot my horn and say I was probably one of the few that wanted Carson Wentz from the very beginning. But him and McVay and that offense, it's got the potential to be extremely scary when you think about it. And he's got an arm that McVay's never played with. He's got smarts, and he's got the IQ that McVay's never had. And he's just going to be able to just fling the ball around all over LA. And I see him having a massive year this year. I'm really pumped to see that game. Me and you joked about when we talked about the schedule was how cool would that game be? You have Matthew Stafford, who the Colts fans wanted, and you got Carson Wentz, who they kind of wanted, and now they're going against each other. And let's see what we got. So, I've got him as my 5. I think he could have a massive year this year.
Yeah, man. Stafford is a really cool pick, man. I mean, like I'll be honest with you, Steven. I never really considered him top five. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think he's going to throw for just a ton of yards this year
Mm-hmm.
and a ton of touchdowns. That offense is going to be, I'd say, electric. I mean, he's got a great arm. He's a really, really good quarterback, and there's a great reason why so many Colts fans wanted him to
Yeah.
possibly get Colt. So that man, I'll be honest with you. So far, I'm pretty impressed with that one right there. That was a good number five. Um, let's move on to the running back position. Um, if you're a Titans fan, you might not be happy with this top five right here, but we'll be all right. You guys will get over it. But
You are getting ready to make everybody in Tennessee mad.
but anyway,
And I'm the one who'll deal with it.
exactly. Um, Number one, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he is a running back and a wide receiver all into one. You know, he's both positions. He guy can catch 100 passes and still go for over 1,000 yards. He's a touchdown guy. Last year, he's just been dealing with injuries. I think that's really the only thing that's hurt him. He's just been dealing with injuries, and that Matt Rule offense. Um, the question was they going to still use him at the same percentage? And when he was healthy, yes, they did use him. I mean, they used him at a huge rate, and why wouldn't you? I mean, you got a real, true, a weapon in the passing game and in the running game. I mean, you got a really, really solid guy. Number two, I struggle with this one because I think there's so many. I really think 2 through 5 could almost all be the same. Um, and for me, I went with Dalvin Cook, a guy who's always tends to miss a couple games as the season goes, but that dude is legitimately consistent. And what do we want in fantasy? We want touchdowns, right? Like we want that so bad. And Dalvin Cook, man, I mean, the dude just 16 touchdowns, and then he even caught one last year. So he caught 44 balls. I mean, that's really representable. I mean, if you're a bell cow running back, he's not going to be up there with the Kamaras and the McCaffreys and probably Saquons and all those guys. But that being said, I got him slated in as my number two. Kamara, I will go with Kamara at 3, but I will say the caveat is, how is this New Orleans offense going to work for him? I mean, for years, had Drew Brees just feeding him that ball, right? He's always hitting him in the perfect spot at the perfect time. And he's just used Kamara as just an absolute weapon. I'm going to stick with him at 3. I believe Sean Payton is too good of an offensive mind to not allow whoever's underneath center. I don't care who it is. They're going to make sure that they use him as a weapon. Saquon scares me a little bit, man. I mean, just because of his injuries in the last couple of years. So I didn't really go with Saquon on 4. I actually went with a guy who I think is going to have a very good year this year, and he had an incredible year last year, which was Aaron Jones. I thought Aaron Jones was great in the passing game. 47 catches, 2 touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns on the ground, over 1,100 yards rushing. That was just in 14 games. We're going to a 17-game season. I want a guy who can run and catch, especially when it gets cold outside. So he's my number 4. And then my number 5, got a rep for the horseshoe. I'm going Jonathan Taylor. I said he's a top 5 running back. I meant it. I stand behind it. Give me a chance in this fantasy football league, and I'll show you how much I believe in him. We'll just see what happens. But I think he catches more passes out of the backfield this year. B, he's an overall better runner. And I think it's proven years 2 through 5 are really the years that you see running backs in the NFL have. I mean, that's their stretch, right? Everybody's so scared to pay him that second contract because they know that tread gets so thin. But this guy has just been, I mean, 3 2,000-yard seasons in college, comes to the NFL, takes that, the last half of the season by storm. I think the arrow's pointing way, way, way up for JT, honestly. I mean, I really do. He's my number 5. And then my 6, just kind of your sleepers on the outside. It's between Saquon and Derrick Henry. I'm not going to be completely oblivious and just be a complete anti-rooter and hater. Obviously, Derrick Henry is a really, really good running back. Now, I will say this: notoriously, when guys end up coming off of a 2,000-yard season, we always see a dip, right? We always seem to see some sort of a dip. And then you go into the situation where Tennessee's got more balls. They've got to throw more balls because they now have Julio in there. We got more mouths to feed. That makes things a little more difficult. So that's my top five with a couple extras to go with.
So I really like your top. I really actually like it. Number one, yeah. I mean, I think barring with the caveat that he comes back healthy, I think Christian McCaffrey's right there. I'm actually going to put Dalvin Cook one.
Okay.
I like the way the offense is featured to him and how he runs. Now, there's a caveat with him too. He's got to stay healthy because he's not been healthy. I mean, my family's Florida State fans. He struggled. I mean, I'm a huge Dalvin Cook fan, which as you were saying his name, I was like, I got to look this up because I thought it was such a fun little fact. So for those of you who are huge Dalvin Cook fans, his jersey wears number 33. And with the single digit changes, he was going to change to his old college number, which was number 4. It was going to cost him $1.5 million. So he will be wearing number 33 this season. I just thought that was such a fun little fact. But so, wow. I mean, I've got him 1. McCaffrey will be 2 for me. I think he's so multidimensional. I think they don't really have that quarterback that they feel strongly with yet. And so they're going to feed him. And hopefully, for just NFL fans' sake, and he's in the NFC, we don't have to worry. I want him to come back healthy. He's so fun to watch. And I mean, the funny thing for me is if you had asked me coming out of college if I thought he was going to be as good as he is, I did not think it. I just didn't see it, especially when he got picked by the Panthers and he got picked higher than I thought. But he's been amazing. So I have him at 2. This is where we differ, I think. I'm going to put Derrick Henry at 3. Okay. And this is not the Tennessee living in me. For those who know, I live in Tennessee, but I don't like the Titans. It's hard to ignore. It's hard. I mean, because I think you have a great point. They have Julio. They're going to have to feed the ball elsewhere now. But I mean, Vrabel's not stupid. We know he's not stupid. I know we don't like him. I know you don't like him, but he is a smart guy when it comes to tactics, and he knows, the old saying, you ride with the one that got you there. And Derrick Henry is the reason they've had great seasons the last 2 years. I think they're going to continue to just feed him the ball. I think they're going to feed him the ball till he just falls apart in a few years, honestly. It's a huge debate that I have with my Titans fans who are my friends, is that I don't know if he lasts the length of his contract with the way they put the ball in his hands right now. But I have him at 3. Kamara comes in at number 4 for me. I think my biggest worry, and it's kind of funny, all of them come with caveats. Okay. Kamara worries me because you've got either Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston throwing him the ball out of the backfield. And we don't know. Last time we saw Jameis actually play meaningful snaps, he was the first inaugural member of the 30 for 30 club, and like I said, Florida State fans in my family, my parents are boosters. So they love them some Jameis. The dude is just, football IQ is like this, man. And so I don't know. And then I don't trust, I've got friends and family that are BYU alum, and they love them some Taysom Hill, but I don't know with him either. And the running back, it's not like the wide receivers. It's not solely contingent, but with a running back like Kamara, it really is, because he's going to catch, with Breeze, 50, 60 balls, and that's where he gets his production. So I don't know. There's that caveat with him too. Number 5, easy, slam dunk, is Jonathan Taylor. I'm not going to miss him. If I pick before you, he will be mine. But I mean, to see how he came on at the end of the year, I mean, he's just, and they're going to use him in those short yardage situations. He's going to put the points up. I mean, he's going to be a legitimate top 5. Forget fantasy too. He's going to be legitimate top 5 running back, period, in the league this year. Just period, in a sense, doesn't matter. So, I mean, that's mine. So my little sleeper one, I've got, it's not my 6. He's not 6, but a little sleeper one, a little late round, Najee Harris up in Pittsburgh. So what I've been told by, I mean, like I said on here, I've got a lot of friends who are really close in the Bama program too, is he's the most pro ready. He is the most fully formed running back to come out of Alabama since Derrick Henry did. That he's ready to, and he's in a situation that we know is going to feed him the ball. So I expect him. I could honestly see him vying for an offensive rookie of the year or offensive rookie of the year. Just a little nugget. He's not going to go top, in the first couple of rounds. But if you're looking for a little sleeper running back, man, I could see him having a big year. I mean, I really could.
Yeah, man. I think those are really good picks, man. I mean, uh, we're pretty similar in our thought process as far as how the running backs all go. And
Mm-hmm.
honest truth, if you pick any one of the guys that we just mentioned before, you're probably going to have a pretty good running back as long as he can stay healthy. I mean, you're probably going to have a running back one for sure for the whole season. Let's pivot now and let's get over to the wide receivers. Wide receiver is an incredible position from the standpoint is really the position in the NFL that you can get the most value. If you miss out on those first 5, 6 guys, you can still get guys late in the draft that can be such impactful players, man. I mean, it's incredible. And there's always a rookie. Every year you feel like there's a rookie getting their name mentioned that always kinds of steps up there. But my top 5, I'll start with Tyreek. I think Tyreek Hill is just such a game changer. The dude can do everything, man. I mean, end arounds, he catches the ball. It never ceases to amaze me at how a guy that's that small can go up and just pull that ball out of the air against those bigger physical, cornerbacks. He's unbelievable. I mean, he really is. He's an incredible guy, and he has just the greatest feet, in the NFL right now. So he's the number one. He's the big fish if everybody's looking to get the game-changing wide receiver. Number 2, I hesitated for a second on this one, Steven, and then I said, just do what you think is the right decision. And when I close my eyes, Devontae Adams is the second best wide receiver in the NFL. I'm worried that Rodgers won't be there, but you said you feel like he'll be there a full season. I think probably Rodgers probably holds out all the way up until training camp, and then something happens there, and they all they have a little coming to Jesus, and everything kind of passes through and all that good stuff. But Adams is definitely the second most talented. He had 18 touchdowns last year. I mean, that's a big number,
Good
man.
God.
I mean, that's a big, big number. Number 3 for me is going to be Diggs with Josh Allen. I think he had a great year last year, but he just continues to be a really, really productive wide receiver in the NFL, man. I mean, the guy catches all kinds of passes. His stat line last year, 127 grabs, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. A little bit lower than you would want for a top 5, but when you're getting over 1,500 yards and you're catching 127 passes, I mean, all the points and the metrics all kind of weigh out as far as that goes. My number 4 this year, I think he takes the jump. It's year 3 for him. A guy who the Indianapolis Colts could have drafted. I was at that draft. I was heartbroken that they didn't do that, Steven. DK Metcalf will be my number 4 this year. I think he takes a little bit over past Tyler Lockett. He's a guy that can catch the ball 4 or 5 times in a football game and just change everything about the game. He doesn't need the volume that some of these other guys need. He doesn't need to catch 8, 10, 11 balls a game. He's a guy who can catch fewer passes but still do so much with it. I mean, the guy caught 83 balls for 1,300 yards last year. Well, I mean, we can compare Tyler Lockett caught 100 balls for 1,000 yards last year. So the guy catches 17 passes less for 300 more yards. If you want to talk about yards per catch, I mean, and what he's doing, that yak, what he's doing with the ball once it's in his hands. He's a freak. I got him as my number 4. I'm very confident in saying that. And then my number 5 is DeAndre Hopkins, Mr. Just reliable, consistent. Dude's healthy. Dude's going to catch 100 passes. It's that simple. I mean, that's just how it is. Total body control. He'll be one of the few receivers that ages well in the NFL, in my opinion, as all Colts fans know, playing against the Texans. He has great body control. He runs routes fantastically. He uses his body to kind of be that, that big man, kind of block guys out. His style of football translates, mid 30s. He can still play for another 3 or 4 years at a very high level. So he's my number 5. And then I got a couple, guys right on the fringe. Justin Jefferson was special last year as a rookie. I don't think he'll be as special this year. I think we're going to see a little bit of a regression, but that's fair. He's still going to have a very good season. And then, you gotta call a spade a spade. And AJ Brown had a hell of a season last year, and he's a very good wide receiver. My only question was how many of those passes go to Julio now that would have went to him, last year?
Right.
We don't know. We'll find out as the season goes. But I think we're going to find out as the season goes. I think AJ's probably will end up being the top pass catcher there in Tennessee. So he would be another guy on the outside looking in. Anyways, there's my top 5. What do you think?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go. I go Devontae Adams 1. I think with Rodgers back, I mean, you read the numbers. The guy is ridiculous, and he's going to continue to be ridiculous as long as he has Rodgers throwing him the ball, which I think, like I said, I think that's what's going to happen. I'd be shocked if they move Rodgers for anything. So I mean, he's my number 1. Number 2 for me is actually, he's a little lower on your list. I'm going DK Metcalf. I think he takes the jump, the big jump. I think because they're just going to drop back and they're just going to fling it with Russ. I mean, they're going to, what is it? Let Russ cook, man. Let him cook. They're just going to throw the ball, dude, all day. And he proved kind of last year, like Russ can't overthrow him. Like he's just going to chuck it up. He's going to go get it. So I've got him at 2. I've got Tyreek Hill at 3. I think he's really talented. He's got a lot, Mahomes has a lot of weapons and they just kind of keep stockpiling them. He's his security blanket, which is crazy. I think I've joked. He looks kind of like a Smurf running around on the field, like a bobblehead. Like his helmet just looks bigger than him. But like, I'll be the first to say, like, 2 different things. I don't like him at all. So I struggle to put him on any list. But also, like, he did prove his toughness to me. I just remember watching a game. It may have been the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He got laid out. I think it may have been the AFC title game. And he made the catch still. It shocked me. I expected him to just drop it. So he's my number 3. Number 4, I'm going to put AJ Brown. I'm putting a lot of Titans on this list, dude. I'm not liking this. But it's hard. But he is the alpha. He is their number 1, hands down. He overtook Corey Davis. Corey Davis got drafted for that purpose, and they drafted AJ Brown. AJ Brown took it over. I see him catching more because I think there's going to be a whole lot of coverages that get rolled to Julio because he's the new shiny toy. The question with it's going to be, is Tannehill going to feel pressure to throw to him, a la Baker Mayfield feeling pressure to throw to OBJ and completely negating Jarvis Landry? So I think that's one. And then my last one is obviously, I'm going to go with you. DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. You can just throw the ball up and he's going to go get it, which is when you were saying like he's going to age really well. It's so ironic to me because the way his game is aging reminds me so much of Larry Fitzgerald. Just that he's so crisp. He's never been the fastest wide receiver, but he's just been the cleanest. And that Larry Fitzgerald has proved if you put in the work. Larry Fitzgerald is obviously a Hall of Famer, first ballot, but you put the work in, you can keep playing because your routes don't depreciate. You're going to be able to continue to run those amazing routes. So, He's amazing. A sleeper one for me that I like is kind of just, like I said with the running backs, a little nugget later. I like Debo Samuel out in San Francisco. He does what I want Paris Campbell to do, which is catch the ball, and he's yak, all yak. Now, granted, I don't like the wide receiver reverses. I said I don't want Paris Campbell running those, but that's what I want Paris Campbell to be. And I think he's a player that you can get a little later. And I've been on record too. I think Trey Lance is going to be the best quarterback coming out of this draft. And Jimmy G's fine too. So I mean, he's a good little sleeper one for me that I like if you can pick him up a little bit later.
Yeah, man. I can't really argue with that, man. I mean, and when we're talking top five, I mean, normally when we're talking top five, we're just kind of switching and tweaking those positions. My one is your three and vice versa. There's just not a lot, but I mean, very, very good top five, Stephen, man. I really like that. And, I hate to admit it, but you might have changed my mind on a couple things as we go here.
Oh, mark it down on the calendar, you guys.
I'll look at this. Last area is tight end. Now, tight end, I'll say this. There are some elite tight ends, and then the rest are just a bunch of guys, right? Like there's no sense. If you don't get one of the top 3, possibly 4 tight ends, in my opinion, then you can wait late in the draft and just go out there and just find a guy. You know what I mean? You really can. But we'll start at the top. He's the king. Until somebody knocks him off the mountain, Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the NFL. I mean, listen to this stat line: 105 catches, 1,400 yards. He's got 11 touchdowns last year. I mean, that's one of the best seasons for a wide receiver. That has nothing to do with even just being that's almost positionless. Really, really, really impressive. Number 2 guy. Is Darren Waller. I mean, that guy John Gruden loves him. Derek Carr loves him more. I mean, he goes to him. I swear, man. I mean, I didn't get to see a lot of them play last year, but I feel like almost every Raiders game, all I ever saw Derek Carr do was pass the ball to Waller. I mean, I was like, my gosh, man. I mean, this dude is just feeding them. And when we look at the stat line, 107 catches, 1,196 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's strong, man. I mean, that is really, really elite level. Those 2 guys kind of separate themselves. One guy who's third on my list, but probably will get dropped a little bit just because of injuries, will be George Kittle. I think he's still – listen, man, I mean, George Kittle's the real deal. He's a game changer. I mean, we can't forget that he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Kittle – traditionally, the only issue that Kittle's ever had in his career is he just doesn't catch a ton of touchdowns, right? Like he catches a ton of balls, a lot of yards. He plays this reckless style of football that almost keeps himself from being able to stay on the field sometimes. I mean, like he's just such a warrior out there. But Kittle's my number 3. And then my 4 and my 5, I mean, really, you could take probably 10, 12 guys and just kind of put them in there, But I think there's one guy that's kind of a little bit ahead of all of the rest, and that's T.J. Hawkinson. I think he's right on the tier of being – he's not quite as good as those first 3, but if you're looking for a really good, solid tight end who can do a little bit more than just catch a few balls a game, Hawkinson can kind of do that for you. And then 5, I'm going to throw just out of the just a dart in the board. And I'm going to go with this one right here. And I'm going to say my number 5 guy, because of the situation he's in and where he got drafted, Kyle Pitts will be the number 5 tight end this year.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
I think he is really, really, really going to have an incredible season. I mean, I do. I mean, I think he's gonna get a lot of volume, and they're going to treat him almost like he's a hybrid tight end. If he catches 70, 75, 80 balls this year, I'm not surprised at all, man. I think they're gonna go to him and go to him often. And if I want to go with the sleeper, I really think, just knowing Nick Sirianni, Dallas Goedert out there in Philadelphia, if he can stay healthy, you want a security blanket for your young quarterback. a chain mover, a guy who can go up and get it. He would be one. Mark Andrews, obviously, is not really a sleeper. The guy's just a touchdown machine. Um, I just don't like the quarterback throwing the ball to him, right? Like otherwise, I mean, Andrews is right there as well. Um, but we'll see, man. Who do you got in your top five?
So to be contrarian, as I like to do sometimes, I'm going to put Darren Waller one, just because
Okay.
we saw him in person. Yeah, I mean, Gruden loves him, Carr loves him. It doesn't matter if Carr even likes him. Gruden will make him throw him the ball. I mean, watching him in the game last year, I was kind of in awe. Like, I feel like he just burst onto the scene last year. Um, he's my one. I can't drop Kelsey any further than number two. Uh, like you said, he put up wide receiver numbers, which is just insane. And I mean, let's think back. What was it? 2 years ago? I think 2 or 3 years ago when he got hurt, and I think it was the Titans game, or maybe it may have been our game. He got hurt, and their offense was completely different without him coming across the middle and just taking 20 yards, 25 yards, 15 yards. I mean, completely different when he's not in the game. So I mean, you have to put him at two. Number three for me, I'm with you. I think Kittle's right there. Um, health is a big thing. Health across the board for any of these players that we pick is going to be a big thing. They got to stay healthy. But he has been really nicked up. Now, so has that whole Niners team. Um, I like that team. I like to see how they look. I like their coach, although I have had some things to say in the past about him, about how I feel like he gets a pretty slick pass for not coaching well when he doesn't have all his players. But I mean, let's not like the cool thing with Kittle too is they just had this, as we're talking about the tight ends, they just had this big tight end university thing that was here
Yeah.
in Nashville where they had them all in there. And I mean, little known fact is that's Kittle lives here. Kittle lives in Nashville. This off-season home is here. If you watch him when he's on TV, he wears a lot of shirts that have this Mustang and it says LA on it, or he's got a hat on, or his dad has it. That's Lipscomb Academy. That's Trent Dilford's where he coaches up in Nashville. So he's little known fact there. That's probably why they did it in Nashville. Number four. Oh man, I mean, I'm gonna go because I think it's kind of like he's got to show up or show out. I do like OJ Howard. Um, I think he's in a system that can work. I think Gronk is kind of going to continue to he's on the I mean, I'm not gonna say back nine because he retired and he came back. So I mean, I don't foresee, and I don't have Gronk, which is crazy to think, like, what, 5 years ago, to have a top five tight end and not name Gronkowski in it.
Right.
But so I'll put him there. And then number five, uh I do. I'm gonna kind of piggyback. I do like the Goddard pick. We know Sirianni gets a lot of kind of what he does from Reich. Reich loves the tight ends, so I could foresee that happening. Um, Sleeper pick for me is actually Kylan Granson. I think that's a really good sleeper. I could see him, and I say this because we talked last time about the idea that if you look at the breadcrumbs of who you see connecting with the quarterback the most during the offseason. And Granson's at everything. Granson, I mean, we're going to talk about it later. He's at the workouts in Texas right now. There was a point made to show that he was there. So I like that one. I think he's going to do really well. I mean, the tight end is such an interesting position. Fun fact for you too is on the radio here in Tennessee, they're talking about picking up a tight end, one Trey Burton, possibly, and seeing what they can get out of him this year. So, I mean, I love the tight end. I love how it's progressed. It's a dirty word now, but I loved Eric Ebron. I actually was really lucky enough to have several interactions with him on social media, and he was incredibly nice. I think he's an incredibly nice guy. He just kind of quit on the team, and it is what it is. But the tight end is such an interesting position because also it's important to know outside of these ones that we named, like you said, like Kelsey and Waller, your tight end's not going to give you a ton of points. It's just not. You want to have if you don't have one of the top ones, try to snag a sleeper one. Don't take your third round pick and pick like someone that you're unsure of at tight end. It's not that important in fantasy unless you have a Kelsey or a Waller, someone who's putting up wide receiver type numbers.
Yeah, man, I think it's a good list. You went a little bit rogue there on a few players there, but hey, I like it, man. I like it. You going heavy for. You got to throw in Granson. I really appreciate the fact that you get. And listen, he could be a really good. I mean, he could have a really solid rookie season. I mean, and especially if you're looking in leagues like where you would keep somebody, the dynasty leagues where you're going to go ahead and get a guy early on and then be able to stash him, especially for year 2, 3, 4 in that deal, man. I mean, really good.
Well, and you pointed out too, it's really important to note what you said at the very beginning too, is we're talking PPR leagues. These are points per reception. So who's going to get the most targets too? Because you're getting points if they get targeted. And they catch the ball, obviously. They can't be stone hands like Eric Ebron was a few years ago.
Or Trey Burton. Little jab right there to Trey Burton dropping the ball. But
yes.
That being said, I just want to say this is really fun. I had a good time doing this, But all in all, we've talked fantasy. We've done this 2 different segments, 2 different shows. I'm excited to talk about the news that happened today, right? It's not, this massive earth-shattering news, but it's cool, man. Anytime you hear something where your quarterback who's new to your system and has all of these people, coming in, several different names, Steven, players, just like one guy, or 2 guys. I think Pittman Jr., Desmond Patman's down there. I think Paris Campbell, where you mentioned Granson. I think the only like veteran name that I didn't see on there, I don't think T.Y.'s there with him. I think he's got pretty much the full stable, back there kind of catching the ball. And dude, it's so cool for me to see a guy who's doing his best to kind of build chemistry, but build real personal relationships with these guys. Like that's the one thing in the feedback that I've gotten from Carson since his time has been in Indy. Because his biggest knock was, he just wasn't a great teammate or he wasn't a great leader. He just kind of struggled with those types of things. Well, it sure seems like that Carson Wentz is either grown from that or those statements are completely false because he's done nothing but embrace the city of Indianapolis and in particular his teammates, man. I mean, every chance he's gotten, he spent time with these wide receivers, exclusive time. We're not talking about, just one day of the whole offseason. I think this is the 3rd time documented that he has met with people and had people come and said, "Hey, let's throw the ball together. Let's get to know each other on a personal level."
Yeah, I mean, so as you were talking, for those who are looking at YouTube, I wanted to make sure. So, man, I found the actual list of who is somewhat confirmed through Instagram. Naheem Hines, Zach Pascal, Mike Strawn, Jacob Eason, Mo Alley Cox, Paris Campbell, Ashton Doolin, Kylan Granson, and Pittman Jr. Oh, and Desmond Patman.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's like the whole offensive unit is in Texas with him right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. Oh my God. You can see if you're watching too. Like I've got the hat on, I've got his AO1 hat. I'm all Carson anyway, but I was so excited to see this just because he said it after they had the little break. How I'm going to get everybody together again. And just the turnout too. The amount of turnout, like you said, one of the biggest knocks coming from Philly was he was a bad teammate. I think if you follow me on Twitter, you saw my thing where I was like, oh, but Philly said that he was a horrible teammate. Like these guys love him already. Yeah, he's got to win. I mean, we're not stupid. Like he's got to win. He's got to play well. But from listening to like Zach Kiefer and Stephen Holder and Kevin Bowen, they've talked about too where he's throwing passes with these guys and he's pulling with signs like, man, he wants to get to know them on like a personal level. Like, tell me about your family. Tell me about your kids if you got kids. Let's talk about all this. I love it. I was so excited to see it. And I'll just point out, like you look at the names that are there. Like Jacob Eason's there.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. You have the backup quarterback who's still there, who knows who's there to learn, who's still there to learn. And then you just go down the list and you've got third stringers, special teamers, practice squad. I mean, Michael Strawn, who I'm high on, and George came on a few weeks ago, and they seem like the Colts might be high on him a little bit, but he's getting it. And then, man, I feel like looking at this list too, your pick of Pittman Jr. having that big year, that, well, what do we say, 100 catches, 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns, I think is what you called, somewhere around there. Man, I see it. Like no one has thrown the ball more with Carson than he has. And you kind of wonder if the number thing played into that a little bit. Like they really wanted to show they're fine, that the whole number thing was just makeshift and just stupid Philly media stuff. But I could not be more excited to have seen this news. I could not have been more excited to see that pretty much the entire offensive skill unit outside of TY and looks like Doyle is there throwing the balls with him for, I think, what is it, 2 or 3 days? It's several days.
Yeah. I don't think it's just a one-day event, which means they're all going to be together for multiple days. And, one thing I'll say is, Stephen, this is the type of thing that when you're in the middle of January trying to win a playoff football game, that things like this come back up, and all of a sudden you have guys playing for each other. It's not just about going out there making money, looking good on TV. It's about this common bond, and these guys are flashing back in their mind thinking, man, look at the work that we put in July together, to get right here, right now. Let's just lay it on the line, and all of these little nuances. I really like a point you brought up that Jacob Eason's out there, which means, there's no bigger sign of leadership than that, right? Like you're not going to invite someone who's your backup quarterback who would love to take your spot. You're not going to do that if you're not a true leader. If you're not a good guy, if you're not a good teammate, if you're intimidated by things like that.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Zach.
I absolutely like the fact that Carson, and a report came out, I think a few days ago, before this, said he's almost has a newfound love for the game of football. He's almost kind of found a different path, a different way of looking at it, which is amazing. Now, another great point you make. He's got to translate to the field, right? Mm-hmm. Like all these heartfelt, feel-good stories are great if he turns out to be what we think he can be. If he ends up having a bad season, we don't care about these off-season workouts. The writers and the beat writers, the George Bremers, the Kevin Bowens, the Kiefers and the Holders, they're not going to be talking about this story right here. They're going to be talking about, hey, what the hell did Chris Ballard do, and why did he give up the stock, he did to get him over there. But anyways, man, I think super, super, super awesome. I'm just excited for that. We're not that far from training camp.
Oh, yes.
Good thing. It's time to talk about actual real football real soon. I think we got about 3 weeks, man, and we're going to be ready to rock and roll.
Yes.
One of the last things I wanted to hit on, you put it on Twitter earlier, just wanted to get your feedback and get the fans' feedback. N'Keal Harry's agent looks like he's asked and requested for a trade from the Patriots. I'll start by this, and then I'll let you have the full forum. I say no, I'm done.
So it's a controversial tweet, apparently, which is, I guess, what I'm good at nowadays. I don't know. I'm okay with taking a late round. I was talking with Wit Kids on Twitter and a couple other people, and I kind of fall in the category. I'm okay, I think, for a late round pick. I don't want – so it's tough. I didn't want Julio, really. I would have taken him. He's Julio Jones. I'm not stupid. But I don't want to stunt the growth of the young receivers. At the same time, it tends to be a position we have a lot of trouble keeping people healthy. And if I could get him for like a 6th or 7th round pick, I might. Maybe a change of scenery would do him well. We've seen great players who just need changes of scenery. We've seen players who haven't popped until they've gone somewhere else. Do I think they do it? Absolutely not. No. It's just food for thought. It's just fun off-season banter. And the Colts, like you always say, Zach, when you have the most money in the best situation, every player is linked to you. So he's linked. But I don't think Ballard does it. I think Ballard really does like what he has, and he's got, we've got those development receivers with Patman, with Strawn that he really likes. I think, and then you've got, we've said it for months now. We know who the top receivers are. So plus I don't think he'd want to come here. I don't think he wants to come and be fifth on the depth chart, which is what I think he would be. He'd have to prove himself otherwise. So I don't see it happening. It was amazing the response I got back. I mean, I was kind of surprised at the amount of people who were like, "Oh, hell no." Like really quickly. Yeah, I mean, I expected it from you, but I didn't expect it from everybody. So I was like, dang, that got a lot of fodder. So, I mean, I don't see it. I see him going. Plus, I don't see them trading inside, the AFC. And things haven't been great between the Patriots and the Colts since the whole McDaniels thing. There's not been a lot of trades back and forth. So I don't see it happening. But it was interesting to see kind of the response of Colts fans.
Yeah, man, that was yeah. I'm not going to give it much thought. I mean, for all the reasons that you kind of laid it out nicely right there. I don't think Ballard's doing any negotiation deal with the New England Patriots. B, I just don't think he's got a place here in Indy, man. I mean, you would think his agent would want to get him to a place that they're really struggling to find any receivers, and really so he can have a chance to kind of get in there and crack that lineup and get some real playing time. So yeah,
it's like the Dolphins. The Dolphins, I think, would be a good fit. Give Tua another weapon, possibly if they make a trade for Deshaun, you get him another weapon too. I could see that making sense. I could see the Ravens making sense because wide receivers don't really want to go there.
Yeah.
Why would you want to get overthrown by 15 feet by Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it's fun stuff. I mean, and like you said too, we're actually getting close to training camp. So I want to take a second to, I didn't tell you, and just give a massive shout out to all the listeners, all the viewers who watch us on YouTube, because during kind of like we said last time, during this doldrums, the interactions with you guys, the questions, the social media questions, and we're not going to get to any today. We're going to kind of table some, and I've got a massively long one from Scotty, a Colts guy, that I kind of got to, Scotty, if you're listening, I kind of got to decipher it a little bit. It's a solid paragraph. I got to kind of figure out what you're asking, my man. But you guys helped kind of get us through this, and not only get us through, but like we've grown massively, really, over this off season. And I think, shout out to you guys. Shout out to Zach too, because I think Zach coming on, 2 months ago, and the bond we've built has really helped propel it too. So, I mean, we're almost to the point where we get to talk actual football. I can't wait to talk actual football and stop talking about like you said, I don't want to talk about Carson anymore. I just want to see him play. So shout out to all you guys. It's been amazing this off season. We're almost there. We got a couple more weeks, and then it's time to talk some football. It's time to talk legitimate football.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm going to piggyback on that the same. Shout out to Wyatt Law, one of our most dedicated listeners. Just won a hat. We had our first ever no horsing drawing. Dude's going to get a hat sent to him. And then we're going to have more contests. We've got a kind of a special thing kind of holding back as it gets closer to the, training camp and all that good stuff. Stay tuned. I think you guys will be really excited. But I'm really, I'm just so grateful. Every time you guys interact with us, you could be doing anything at all, period. And you take time to tweet at us and, discuss with us and send in Twitter questions. And we've gotten, our following. I mean, it just feels like yesterday, we had 25 people on YouTube, that was watching our channel. Now we have over 125 people, watching our channel. And it just keeps growing, but it grows the right way. Steve and I, when we started this together, we said, we'd rather grow organically. We would rather get to know the people who are listening to our podcast. We don't necessarily want to wake up overnight and it just be like crazy. We want to get to say one day, looking back at this a year from now, and say, man, we got to really get to know who Wyatt Law was. We got to really get to know who Vinny was. We got to really get to know who all of these people who interact with us are on a personal level. And because that's what we do it for. We're friends. We're part of Colts Nation. We just want to use our voice to voice our opinions. And you guys are the ones that allow us to do that. So super, super big thank you, man. Just like, subscribe, share, keep it going for us. And like I say on every single podcast, and I mean it, if you want to debate us, if you have a question, you disagree, let us know, man. I mean, if you're right and we think, hey, that's a great point, that's something that needs to be mentioned on the podcast, we'll shout you out. We'll bring it up. We might even bring you on. You know what I mean? Like we're that serious about it. Like, we look forward to doing that part of it. So yeah, big thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like you said too, like we don't view ourselves like up here. Like, we're literally, like we say, two dudes talking Colts. So if you want to debate, like you said, we'll have you on. Like, we have no issue, bringing you on. If you got a podcast, we'll pump your podcast too. Vinny dropped his. Shout out to Vinny. It was very good. He sent me, I think he sent me and you, Zach, kind of an exclusive little sneak peek before he dropped it. He wanted our opinion. Vinny, if you're listening, it sounded great. Great job, my man. I'll be tuning in to get a little bit of fantasy help because I'll probably need it. And shout out to Vinny too. His shirt made it through the red tape and customs, and he was rocking his No Horsing shirt this week. So we were really excited to be able to send that out too. But yeah, like Zach said, man, like, share, subscribe. Shout out to all of our sponsors, Fanatics. We don't really talk about them a ton, but if you want gear, click on our link in our link tree, and you can go get some really sweet Colts gear. You can get any gear. Like, we're Colts, but no Titans. Go somewhere else with that stuff. But you can easily get some other stuff. If you're an Indiana fan, if you're a Purdue fan, whatever you did, Notre Dame, Florida, I don't care. You can go buy it through Fanatics. Shout out to One Call Technology. They're a big time sponsor of ours too. I'm partial to them. That's the company I work for. So I get to see everything. And I love that too. So, we want to thank everybody. And if we started at the beginning of the hour, we still wouldn't have enough time at the end of the hour to thank everybody who's really helped build us to where we're at. As Zach said too, like, we can remember when we were at 25, we're at 100. As I've checked, we're at 131. Like, it's just amazing to me. And if you're listening to this, I tell people all the time, give me 30 seconds, past the intro, 30 seconds, and I'll get you hooked on watching us on YouTube. It'll be the only thing that you look at that point. So just try it out. Try it out if you want to. It's always nice to put a face with the amazing voice that is mine and Zach's. So, Zach, man, I don't have anything else. We're going to be back next week. We end it the same way we always do. I love you. Zach loves you. We're out.